Good morning, everyone. We will be starting the webinar shortly. Please stay tuned. Thank you. Namaskaram and welcome to the third free webinar from DhanamOnline.com and Dhanam Business Magazine. Inate session will be on the topic, the plain truth, how business will
Namaskaram and welcome to the third free webinar from DhanamOnline.com and Dhanam Business Magazine. Inate session will be on the topic, the plain truth, how business will be. And welcome to the third free webinar from DhanamOnline.com and Dhanam Business Magazine. Inate session will be on the topic, the plain truth, how business will be.
Good morning, everyone. Once again, a technical glitch on. So today's topic will be on how business will be after COVID-19. And this session a renowned consultant, Mr. Tini Philip, who is the CEO and co-founder of Results Consulting Group. Tini Philip in the introduction, Mr. Tini Philip works with clients to build and implement unique business models to exploit the large growth opportunities in emerging markets. He is a recognized thought leader on emerging markets and business model related issues in India and the Gulf, and has gained unique expertise and experience from his work with more than 50 industries over the past few years. Tini started his management consulting career in 1992, and he started his own venture, Results Consulting Group, in 1994. He is an electronics and communications engineer from University of Kerala, as well as he's a PGDM from Indian Institute of Management, Lucknow. Tini Philip is also a regular columnist in Dhanam, and his column is called The Contrarian Consultant. Dhanam subscribe in already just before I hand over to Tini Philip, we'll have a Q&A session at the end. So Q&A le questions and doubts we will take them up one by one. So once again, I invite Mr. Tini Philip to start the session. Please go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Vijay. Let me just share my screen so that we can start off. I hope you can see it. Good morning, everyone. It's indeed a pleasure to be interacting with all of you through this webinar today. As Vijay had mentioned, the topic today is called the plain truth, how business will be after COVID-19. The content of this webinar is based on my experiences working with many of my clients over the last few weeks to overcome this COVID-19 crisis. I hope you find this webinar useful for your business. The agenda for today's webinar is as follows. I will first define what it takes to become a successful entrepreneur today. We will then try to understand COVID-19, the world situation briefly, possible scenarios, India particular situation, and what is the forecast for India, and also Kerala situation and forecast, because a lot of us, quite a few of us, Kerala-focused business, and Kerala is a very important part of our business. I will also look at the economic impact of COVID-19 and the other factors which are also impacting the economy. Specifically then, market scenario, specific type of markets, play out, I'll try and discuss. And finally, a sample action plan that one of my clients has implemented and sharing. It's a particular industry, so China may not be exactly applicable to other industries, but what I believe is that it will give you a fair insight into the kind of speed and the kind of decisions that are needed to be taken in order to overcome this COVID crisis. And finally, as Vijay has mentioned, we'll have a Q&A session. I'll try and answer as many questions as I can. So let's start off with what it takes to become a successful entrepreneur. Previously, 2017 November, I believe that to be a successful entrepreneur, you needed to have the right approach to business and you needed to understand your market. I've been, over the last few years, I've been telling people that the approach to business, the right approach to business and the popular approach to business. And if you follow the popular approach, unfortunately, long-term success is not assured. A right approach to business, or what I call the contrarian approach to business, follow a long-term approach is assured. But before 2017, right approach to business, market understanding, competitors, market, customers, angle, a successful entrepreneur chance. After demonetization, the economy changed. Okay, it started slowing down. One additional factor became a requirement for you to become a successful entrepreneur. It means you needed to understand the economy. Economy and such decisions. So if you believe the economy was growing, you would have taken certain decisions. If you believe, like I did, and many of my clients did, that the economy was shrinking or slowing down, normal decisions matter. By 2019, it was very clear to everyone, including the central government, that the economy was in trouble and the government needed to do something about it. In 2019, the government started taking certain steps and actions to stimulate the economy. Corporate tax rate, interest rate reduction, 2019. So an additional factor came into play is that as a successful entrepreneur, you needed to understand whether the government actions were appropriate and timely. Because if they were appropriate and timely, the economy would go in a different path. And if they were not appropriate and timely, the economy would go in another path. But that became the new requirement, the additional requirement as an entrepreneur, that you needed to understand the government actions, particularly the central government actions on the economy. In 2020, unfortunately, we've been hit with the COVID-19 crisis. And now you have this additional issue that as an entrepreneur, you need to understand COVID-19 also, what it is, how it will play out, what will be the new normal over the next 1 to 2 years. After you can streamline your company or your business and align it with the new normal that will be happening. So let's start off with understanding COVID-19, and we'll look at the world situation also. As a disease, COVID-19 is highly infectious. Experts പറയുന്നതനുസരിച്ച് ഒരു 1.6 to 3 people വരെ ഒരു carrier-നെ infect ചെയ്യാം. That is, if I get infected, I can infect between average of 2 people during my tenure of infection. It transmits through saliva, mucus, cough droplets. And ഇതിന്റെ ഒരു വലിയൊരു പ്രത്യേകത എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ it has a large number of asymptomatic cases. That is, അത് ചിലപ്പോൾ നമ്മൾ വിചാരിക്കും asymptomatic cases നല്ലത്, symptoms ഇല്ലാത്ത case. It's actually not bad. I mean, if I get it and I have very little symptoms, then I don't need to go to the hospital. I don't need any treatment. That's a good thing. But the problem is, COVID-19 apparently the asymptomatic cases is between 40 to 60%. If 40 to 60% ആൾക്കാർ infected ആയാലും, they actually don't know that they're infected unless they're tested. അതുകൊണ്ട് അവർ normal life കൂടെ പോവുകയാണെങ്കിൽ they can continuously infect people. അതാണ് ഇതിൻ്റെ ഒരു പ്രോബ്ലം. ഈ large number of asymptomatic cases ഉള്ളതുകൊണ്ട് infection control ചെയ്യാൻ ഭയങ്കര difficult. Unless you test and find out somebody is infected, if he doesn't show symptoms, he can happily go and infect others. Now, the disease and the mortality rate is actually quite low, supposed to be around 2% on the average, real mortality rate. Now, 1 to 2% mortality rate of a disease, എന്തുകൊണ്ട് ഇത്തരം പ്രശ്നങ്ങൾ ഉണ്ടാക്കുന്നതെന്ന് നമുക്ക് ആലോചിക്കേണ്ടി വരും. The reason is very simple. Infection rate ഭയങ്കര high ആയതുകൊണ്ട് exponential growth in cases will. And that overloads the healthcare system of the country or the district or the state that we are in. Our area healthcare system overloaded out. അപ്പോൾ എന്ത് സംഭവിക്കുന്നു അത് കാരണം ഡെത്ത് ഇൻക്രീസസ് ഡിസ്പ്രൊപ്പോർഷനറ്റ്ലി, ദ ഡെത്ത് റേറ്റ്. രണ്ട് ടൈപ്പ് ഡെത്താണ് സംഭവിക്കുന്നത്. ഒന്ന്, കോവിഡ് പേഷ്യൻസിന് തന്നെ, ഫോർ എക്സാമ്പിൾ ക്രിട്ടിക്കൽ കോവിഡ് പേഷ്യൻസ് നീഡ് വെന്റിലേറ്റേഴ്സ്. അപ്പോൾ വെന്റിലേറ്റേഴ്സ് എല്ലാം ഫുൾ ആവും. പുതിയ പേഷ്യൻസ് വരുമ്പം ഡോക്ടേഴ്സ് ആർ ഫോഴ്സ്ഡ് ടു ഡു എ ട്രയാജ്. അപ്പോൾ ഇയാളെ മാറ്റിയിട്ട് മറ്റേ കെടുത്തുക. They are actually deciding who will die. This has happened in Italy. So the death rate of COVID cases disproportionately കൂടും because equipment, beds, doctors illa service here. An additional issue is that ഈ COVID cases വന്ന healthcare system overwhelmed ആവുമ്പോൾ നമ്മളുടെ normal cases, heart attack, dialysis, cancer patients ട്രീറ്റ്മെന്റും മുടങ്ങും. Because hospital gets full or infected or get closed, or doctors get infected and move out of the front line. But the death rate of non-COVID cases also shoots up in this time. But this is a disease in a crisis like this. Let us now look at COVID-19's infection scenario where no action is taken by the authorities. This is a theoretical assumption because everywhere authorities will take action. But let's say, for assumption's sake, let's say that no action is taken. What happens? The red line is daily new cases of the COVID virus, and the blue line is daily deaths. And if you look at the bottom, you will see a horizontal line saying healthcare capacity. That area or state India or district India or country healthcare capacity. So as long as the daily new cases are below that line, the healthcare capacity is not overwhelmed. At the cross healthcare capacity overwhelmed down and the death rate to example. So if you can see that if no action is taken, the virus grows exponentially and the healthcare capacity is overwhelmed, and then the death rate also starts shooting up. And it figures shoot up to very high levels, and finally they flatten, and at a point when a sufficient percentage of the population becomes immune to the virus through infection and recovery. I'll just explain that. For example, initial phase I get infected. I 100 alkar interact. 100 alkar are all fresh cases. COVID-19 they are not immune. Maybe I can infect 2 people during my time that I am carrier. Whereas ഒരു കൊല്ലം കഴിഞ്ഞിട്ട് കണ്ടമാനം ആൾക്കാർക്ക് ഇൻഫെക്ഷൻ ആയി, അവർ കുറെ പേർ റിക്കവർ ചെയ്തു, കുറച്ച് പേര് മരിച്ചു. എന്നിട്ട് ആസ് എ ന്യൂ കേസ് എനിക്കൊരു ഇൻഫെക്ഷൻ വന്നു, ഐ എം എ ന്യൂ കാരിയർ. അപ്പൊ ഞാനൊരു 100 പേരായിട്ട് ഇന്ററാക്ട് ചെയ്യുമ്പോൾ വാട്ട് ഹാപ്പൻസ് ഇസ് ദാറ്റ് ഒരു 50 പീപ്പിൾ ഹാവ് ഓൾറെഡി റിക്കവർഡ് ഫ്രം ദ വൈറസ് ആൻഡ് ആർ പ്രോബ്ലി ഇമ്മ്യൂൺ. അപ്പൊ എനിക്ക് ബാക്കി 50 പേരെ ഇൻഫെക്ട് ചെയ്യാൻ പറ്റൂ. അപ്പൊ എൻ്റെ ട്രാൻസ്മിഷൻ റേറ്റ് വിൽ ഡ്രോപ്പ് ടു ലെറ്റ്സ് സേ 1 or even below 1. അത് സംഭവിക്കുമ്പോൾ നമ്മുടെ ഡെയിലി ന്യൂ കേസസ് ഫ്ലാറ്റൻ ആൻഡ് ദെൻ ദേ സ്റ്റാർട്ട് ടു go down. And once the daily new cases go down and the healthcare capacity recovers, the daily deaths will also go down. So this is the typical normal scenario if no action is taken. And this could happen in a year or a year and a half for this whole thing to play out, or 2 years probably. Now let us look at some of the statistics just very briefly to understand the situation. This is the daily new deaths and cases worldwide. The daily figure are normal because to see how it plays out, whether we are still rising exponentially or flattening or going down. Total cases in the world is, as on yesterday, was 2.59 million. Total deaths was 182,000 plus. And the peak daily new rate, the maximum cases that were occurring in a particular day was 89,342. And the daily maximum deaths which occurred was on a single day was 10,344. China is an example that we need to study because it was the first country to get the virus, and by studying China, we could probably see how this virus would play out. So China, as you can see from the chart, initially went up, and then suppose they have apparently controlled the virus. The new cases have dropped dramatically, and the death rate also has dropped. The total cases in China as on date are 83,000 plus. The total deaths is about 4,600. The peak deaths which happened was 15,141. And a red spike. I hope you can see my mouse. That was the spike, which was 15,000. And you have a spike here for daily deaths also, the blue line here, which is 1,290. These random spikes, they're very strange. I mean, it's like really off the chart. And the reason is very simple. China actually reclassified its data in between. And so our peak daily new cases, in the pare cases which were classified as non-COVID, our reclassify it in a COVID aaki, adonda otta dusam reclassify edukra our spike one. So this is not actually for that day. And the same thing happened for daily deaths. Here at Wuhan city, the death figures were revised. The previously death non-COVID cases, our COVID reclassified. In fact, Wuhan city's cases went up by 50%, and that is why you're seeing this peak. So, if you look at China, initially response was very poor. City government, provincial government, and even probably the central government did not take the right actions initially. Other cases spiraled out of control. The cases in the city and the province healthcare system was overwhelmed, and many people died. They went in aggressively for city level and even province level lockdowns, border closures, etc. And now they're saying the daily cases have dropped to below 50. And the news restrictions and lockdowns are starting to be lifted in China. Mortality rate is showing at about 5.5%, which is on the slightly higher side. And in China, a question mark the data. It's very difficult to trust the Chinese data because on one hand, we saw the reclassification happening, which changed the figures dramatically. Second thing is that we know that China is an authoritarian state where all critical information is controlled. And the fact that leadership in out of control. So they're trying to change the narrative to such a way that control government has reacted positively. In fact, the new narrative is that China is doing better than US and all other countries. Looking good factor. So I personally believe the China data is not correct. It's fictitious. A lot of it has been suppressed, and probably they'll be releasing it over the period once all the other countries' data looks much worse. Another factor is that national testing data for China has not been released, which is unbelievable because Baki alla country they have actually told us to some degree of accuracy what is the total test which have been done in that country, and so it gives us a fair idea about what is the infection rate and all that. China has not released till date national testing data. In fact, our testing data release either Hubei province in Hubei province is the epicenter. Guangdong province in the south, the south neighboring province in the data market release. Another issue with China was that new cases classificational, till very recently, they were not sharing asymptomatic COVID cases, new cases. So let's say I have 50 symptomatic COVID cases and I have 150 asymptomatic COVID cases tested positive. ഇവർ 50 പറയുള്ളൂ, 50 കേസസേ ഉള്ളൂ, ഈ 150 അവർ classification വരികയില്ല. So now they've started releasing those figures, and in some cases we are seeing the asymptomatic separately, and we are seeing the asymptomatic figures are double or triple what the symptomatic cases are. Up in China, the figures are actually quite suspect, and I don't think we can actually rely on China as a model because of this information problem. The best case country, or the country which has actually controlled the virus till date, in my opinion, is South Korea. South Korea had a statistics for 5.1 crore population of the country. South Korea has had 10,700 cases till date totally. Deaths of only 240. Peak cases, they hit 909, and their peak daily deaths hit 9. I'm just giving a comparison between Kerala and South Korea. Korea is about 5 crore, we are about 3.4 crore. They hit 909 daily cases and they didn't panic. Normally, double digit we are panicking. Okay, so we need to see what is the difference. What South Korea did was it initially figured out what was happening in China and started planning testing kits production, PP equipment production, protocol ready way before the first case hit South Korea. And this was because they had the experience of MERS, Middle Eastern Respiratory Syndrome, which happened to them about 8 years ago. They made a proper plan, and they really scaled up testing rapidly in the beginning. And they have reached 11,200 tests per million of population using innovations like drive-through testing, which you can see in the photograph on the right side. The great thing is that Korea has managed to avoid total lockdown to date. I think it's virtually the only major country with a significant population where they have managed to control the virus till date without having a lockdown. The daily cases have dropped from 909 to less than 50 now. In fact, it's fluctuating two-digit range. And the healthcare system overwhelmed the mortality rate till date is quite low at about 2.24%. Another example we need to look at very quickly, because in a lot of countries we can't take all of them. I've just taken 3. Is Italy. Italy, the situation is 187,000 cases as on date. Deaths are about 25,000 plus. Peak cases were 6,557, and the peak deaths were 971. So as you can see, the peak cases and the peak deaths have started dropping over the last few weeks. Italy was late. The government didn't take this issue seriously, and when it went out of control, that is when they started acting. By the time the damage had been done, but they have scaled up testing late. But now they are one of the highest populations being tested, 25,590 per million as on yesterday. Italy was forced to implement a total lockdown from 9th March, which has been extended to 3rd May to control the out of control situation. Now, the daily new cases have dropped from about 6,500 to less than 4,000, and hopefully the trend will be downward. Unfortunately, the healthcare system overwhelmed, particularly North Italy and the province of Lombardy. The mortality rate is very high at about 13.39% at present. So based on these 2-3 scenarios, let us look at what are the kind of scenarios that we can expect for a country. Type scenarios Aditya scenario is what I call the best case scenario, which is based on South Korea. And I think this is going to be a rare scenario. It's good to know what is possible. If you can see, the green thick line is the number of new cases daily. So initially infection body. But what happens is this country, because the state becomes very proactive, we have early massive testing, we have stringent isolation and increase in healthcare capacity. So you can see the healthcare capacity is also brought up during that period. And with the stringent massive testing and isolation without locking down, you're able to bring down the number of cases to a level which is acceptable to the healthcare capacity system of the country. ഇതായിപ്പം സൗത്ത് കൊറിയയിൽ സംഭവിച്ചത്. And over the period, partial lockdowns, area-wise, cluster-wise, red zones, lockdown if things go out of control. And this will continue for some time until vaccination, effective vaccination is developed and vaccination is done. So you can see towards the end of the line, I have said vaccination started. Once sufficient percentage of the population become immune to the virus through vaccination, then the cases start dropping to a negligible level. With our best case scenario, and so far South Korea has been actually following this trend, and we'll have to see whether they can continue with this method. What I believe will be the most common scenario, and which we are seeing in most other countries, is that initially out of control out. So the governments respond poorly, they don't do enough testing, social distancing is not practiced properly due to either lack of discipline, lack of knowledge, or our country scenario and such. And what happens is, if you can see the red line, that is the number of new cases, it grows and blows out and goes beyond the healthcare capacity. Then the governments are forced to implement a total lockdown. About Italy, the example, they had a late lockdown. So after things went out of control, they implemented a lockdown. The India situation, what I believe is that we have implemented an early lockdown. But I still think that in many areas, the situation will go out of control. And once things come under control, the lockdown is lifted. And then partial lockdowns, cluster lockdowns, red zone, green zone, control. But testing has to be increased exponentially at this stage. Otherwise, each second flattening of the curve without total lockdown. And people will avoid total lockdowns after some time because of the economic consequences. With proper testing and isolation, we could probably manage with partial lockdowns until a vaccination is developed. And as in the previous case, vaccination implemented, hopefully the daily cases will become negligible and we'll get out of this situation. So I believe this is the most common scenario we'll see for most of the countries today. So let's look at India specifically. Let's see what's happening in India. As on yesterday, 21,393 cases in that. We had about 681 deaths. Peak daily cases about 1,553, and peak daily deaths is 50. As you can see from the graph, March 25th, we have implemented the lockdown, total lockdown, but unfortunately, even after 3 weeks, the figures are going. There's been a slight flattening at the last few days, but the situation doesn't look very rosy at this particular point of time. Now, just to give you an example about testing, because the lockdown future will avoid testing is very important. We need to be able to identify infection, quarantine, contact tracing, possible quarantine, transmission rate control. So if you look at it, Italy has now gone overboard with testing. They're doing about 1 test per 1,000 people per day. South Korea, which initially itself has scaled up testing, is doing about nearly close to 0.2 tests per day, which is about 1/5 of Italy at this particular point of time in terms of proportion. And India, the blue line you can see at the bottom, is still way behind these two countries in per 1,000 tests. Let's look at the total tests till date. The country data. Italy has actually conducted 25 tests per 1,000 till date, till April 22nd. South Korea, which we say has got a very high testing method, has only reached 11.2 per 1,000. And India was at 0.33 as on April. The data is April 21st. So we're way behind in terms of per 1,000 population testing. Obviously, there are constraints. Number of population is very large. People are talking about the cost of testing, many people, discussion there. And currently, test kits are short in India. So definitely, this is a problem, and we'll see how it evolves. Now, although we early lockdown, which I think probably was a necessity given the situation in India. Normally, migrant labor, we saw a large number of migrant labor move to rural areas before the lockdown, even after the lockdown. People walked after the lockdown. In Delhi, buses were sent. And migrant labor who have actually not gone home are staying in crowded rooms, in slums, where social distancing is just a theory. How the social distancing practically ചെയ്യാൻ പറ്റാത്തൊരവസ്ഥയുണ്ട്. So early lockdown വന്നെങ്കിലും we have lost a lot of the benefit because of the problem with migrant labor, where we have not been able to solve this issue successfully during the lockdown. Another very worrying issue is recently Kerala, March 22nd, last flight, international flight into India and even Kerala. And people all went into quarantine. And recently there was some data saying that 26 ദിവസം കഴിഞ്ഞിട്ടും ആൾക്കാർക്ക് have been testing positive for COVID, especially people who have come from abroad. In fact, in China, I was recently reading that even 30 to 60 days കഴിഞ്ഞിട്ടും ആൾക്കാർ positive virus is still in their system. So why is this a problem? Because in India, most states, virtually all states, a 14-day quarantine പറഞ്ഞേക്കുന്നു. That is a suspected case, 14 ദിവസം home quarantine. Kerala is the only state which has actually said 28 days. Okay? So imagine you have been infected and you are a critical suspect patient. You are put in home quarantine. 14 ദിവസം കഴിഞ്ഞിട്ട് നിങ്ങൾക്ക് symptoms ഒന്നുമില്ല. അപ്പോൾ നിങ്ങൾക്ക് റിലീസ് you can move out. അപ്പോൾ ടെസ്റ്റും ചെയ്യുന്നില്ല at this point of time. അപ്പോൾ after some time you get infected or your symptoms come out and you can actually infect people by the time. So quarantine the effect negated out. So this is a very serious issue. It's late detection of coronavirus cases. The time incubation period, which looks for many cases is very high. So India at present, very low scale of testing due to shortage of kits. We've had a 21-day lockdown, which has been extended by 19 more days. Daily cases have been increasing despite the lockdown. Mortality rate is about 3.18%. And the worrying factor is we are seeing infection peaking at different times in different states. Kerala, adime infection peak here. Maharashtra, Delhi, then Tamil Nadu. Now we are seeing Gujarat, Madhya Pradesh. So it's like a wave over. So this is a problem because totally India, വലിയൊരു number of cases ഇല്ലെന്ന് പറയാൻ പറ്റിയ ഒരു അവസരം വരുന്നില്ല. മാറിക്കൊണ്ടിരിക്കുക ഓരോ സ്റ്റേറ്റ്. When Kerala got things under control, Maharashtra went out. The moment probably Maharashtra and those kind of states get it under control, maybe West Bengal, Uttar Pradesh, various states. So that's a very problematic case for India. And India states different governments, different politicians, different infrastructure, different public health infrastructure. However, impact can be very different in different states. I believe that community transmission has occurred in India, although the government, I think, till date is still saying that we have not fully gotten to community transmission. A very simple fact that the number of cases testing is very low. Once you scale up the testing, we will definitely see cases of community transmission. That's what I believe. We will also see a wide range of outcomes between states. That is, Kerala, Goa, another state in the outcome, where Goa, Maharashtra, Tamil Nadu, Uttar Pradesh, West Bengal may be totally different and on a large scale, wide scale of different IQ. So we need to evaluate each state separately. India analysis. So if you are focused on your business is focused in Kerala, clear out. And you need to have a strategy for that. If you're operating in different states, you need to figure out what the other states, what kind of trajectory they will follow. And all India anengilum adum state wise nokkende oru avastha. So namakku India mottathil engane povunu analysis povunu correct alla ennu vishwasam. Wherever you're operating in, you need to figure out how that state will actually move in this crisis. So as an example, let's look at Kerala quickly so that we understand what the situation in Kerala is. Till yesterday, we had about 447 total cases. Peak cases daily, 39 in the end. If you can see, the curve went up and then was brought down dramatically. And the last few days, we have had double-digit cases, but still, comparing it to, for example, South Korea, these are not very alarming cases, subject to the fact that we have systems like South Korea. But obviously, until that happens, these figures are also alarming. Kerala, which I believe that, since we were the first case of infection in India, the Kerala government has been very proactive to date. We have a better healthcare system compared to most other states. And the plus point, the previous experience with Nipah virus has taught the health sector how to deal with a virus of this nature. Another additional positive factor is that we have a 28-day home quarantine, and we actually enforced the lockdown one day before 24th. The national lockdown will start on 25th to control the virus. Normally, initially, we had the highest number of total tests and tests per million. In fact, Kerala, that strategy was appreciated in many states, and many states have followed it. Unfortunately, today, the testing rate is about 576.3 tests per million, which is quite high. But now we are not the highest now in terms of either absolute numbers or in terms of tests per million. We have fallen behind. Testing kits in the shortage on assumption. But Delhi, Tamil Nadu, Rajasthan, Maharashtra have overtaken us and have higher figures right now. So this is a worrying factor because the testing rate, Rajasthan or Maharashtra testing rate definitely assuming that we have the kits. So anyhow, the curve has flattened and dropped significantly right now, and I believe we are the ones who could actually follow the South Korea model most effectively. The total lockdown illade, heavy testing and quarantining and contact tracing of infected people. കൊണ്ടുവന്നാൽ നമുക്ക് കുറേ നോർമാലിറ്റി അത്യാവശ്യം ഇക്കോണമി ഒരു 60-70% നോർമാലിറ്റിയിൽ ഓടിക്കാൻ പറ്റും, like South Korea is doing. So let's look at my forecast for India. Obviously, forecasting is a dangerous business. This virus is unprecedented, but you need to have some sort of idea about how things may play out, and you need to be a little more pessimistic in your planning so that you're prepared for the worst. I believe that testing will be scaled up in India to higher levels as test kits become available. Testing ratios will vary significantly between states. I believe some states will go all out for testing because the political decision on the other infrastructure can we actually manage it. So, for example, Kerala is one of the best positioned states infrastructure-wise, and even political decision-wise, they've gone in for testing. Maharashtra is doing that. Normal Chela governments are seem to be not taking testing aggressively. One reason could be to look good, like the Chinese government. And the state to Moshe and the states in the figure, and the states in the figure, and the Tar and I'm happy. So you can see people increasing testing after Maharashtra's figures shot through the roof. Other states also started looking at testing as an option. I believe daily cases will continue to go up as testing improves and peak at a very, very high figure. I hope I'm wrong, but this is what, from all our indications, the more you test, the more numbers of people, the percentage is remaining the same, but more and more positive. In future, I believe that the red, orange, green zone concept will be followed, and criteria ultimately will be left to the states to define, because each state has got very different dynamics compared to other states. So from central government criteria will be left to the states. Central government guidelines in a dilute ruling, but the states can make it stricter, but not looser. But I feel that after some time, once people realize, the kind of figures, the difference between various states, each state will be, you can't have a one criteria fit or scenario. Then I believe healthcare capacity in many areas will be overwhelmed in Italy. We can see it happening in Mumbai already because of the huge increase in cases. The NSCI stadium, isolation hospital arrange it, and that's a picture you can see. I believe that total lockdown will probably not be implemented again, because even if the figures sort of flatten, the central government will probably not implement the total lockdown, because the economy probably cannot bear another total lockdown. So it will be red, green zone, cluster-based lockdowns in the future. I hope that a total lockdown, it's not necessary to implement one because the economy will suffer massively because of that. So in short, India will suffer from waves of infection occurring in different areas over the next 1 to 2 years or till an effective vaccine is deployed. Why I'm saying 1 to 2 years is I still see a lot of people thinking that things are going back to normal after May 3rd. I believe that's not going to happen. Or effective vaccine where things are going to be abnormal. Okay, although lockdown what will happen is that we will not be normal. There will be many restrictions that will be there in the community, and we have to face up to them. I believe that some states, Kerala is a very good example, will have a much better outcome than other states. Where what I mean by better outcome is 0 cases, but you'll have much more green zones and less red zones compared to many other states which may have much higher red zones at any particular point in time. So let's look at the Kerala forecast. I believe the daily new cases will continue to remain very low till lockdown is fully lifted, double digits, 10, 20, lockdown will be released. I believe testing will be scaled up to higher levels across the state as test kits become available because Kerala had a strategy and massive testing. And, I think it's a shortage of kits which is not made us scale up to that level at this point of time. Contact tracing and quarantine will be strictly implemented. Test contact trace quarantine contacts quarantine situation the red, orange, green zone system will be implemented in Kerala. And after the lockdown is eased, we will see, I believe, infections will start increasing again after easing of the lockdown because infection rate is but other control testing has to simultaneously shoot up exponentially again. Total lockdown situation. I believe definition of green zone will be made looser in future as infections increase because if 0 cases is a green zone level, that's not going to happen. Given the virus in the situation, district 1 case per day should be green, in my opinion. Okay. Otherwise, it should limit to that. The healthcare capacity should not be overwhelmed. Even in Kerala itself, 10-20 cases daily, if we have sufficient testing to control the situation, it should be normal. But the governments will actually, I believe, will move to that because the alternative is to go in for total lockdown for long periods of time, which is, in my opinion, unviable. So I just want to give an example. For South Korea, they're very happy with below 150 cases per day with their systems in place. But just to imagine, in Kerala, the system നമുക്ക് 100 cases in the daily it should be manageable. Of course, we won't have their kind of systems and we don't have their kind of infrastructure. അതുകൊണ്ട് ചിലപ്പോൾ ഒരു എക്സാമ്പിൾ ഒരു 25 കേസോ 10-20 കേസ് ഡെയിലി കേരളത്തിൽ വന്നാൽ ടെസ്റ്റിംഗ് സഫീഷ്യന്റ് ആണെങ്കിൽ it should be manageable. ഈ ഒരു സിറ്റുവേഷൻ നമ്മുടെ ഡെഫിനിഷൻ ഓഫ് ഗ്രീൻ സോൺസ് വിൽ ഹാവ് ടു ചേഞ്ച് ഇൻ പ്ലേസസ് ലൈക്ക് കേരള. എന്നാലേ നമുക്ക് സക്സസ്ഫുൾ ആയിട്ട് ഇക്കണോമിക് ആക്ടിവിറ്റി നടക്കും, പ്ലസ് നമുക്ക് ഡിസീസ് വിൽ ബി അണ്ടർ control. So let's look at the economic impact of this disease. The severity of impact depends on many factors, the impact on the economy and the market. First is, the COVID-19, what was the situation, the status of the pre-COVID-19 economy? Because whether we are strong or weak depends, a lot depends on that. The point is the impact of lockdown. 45 days lockdown effectively, what kind of impact does it have on the economy? And the impact of cluster containment. We need to lockdown easy. We are going to have this cluster containment strategy, red, green, orange zones. So the impact on the economy and market. And finally, mitigate entity. The only entity which can actually mitigate these issues is the central government in terms of economic stimulus packages and support. Government of India actions and actions in the will, the severity of the impact will change. So let's look at the pre-COVID economy. I have been articulating over the last 2 years that we are already in recession. That is, although the official GDP growth figures, 4%, 4.5% in last quarter, from 8% had dropped to 4%. I believe that the economy was already in minus, and I'll just briefly explain to you why I believe that is the case. But the Indian economy has an organized sector and an unorganized sector. The organized sector is about 55% of GDP. Unorganized sector is about 45% of GDP. Organized sector employs between 10 to 15% of the working population, and the unorganized sector employs between 85 to 90% of the total population, working population. Unorganized sector includes agriculture. അപ്പോൾ നിങ്ങൾക്ക് ഈ സ്റ്റാറ്റിസ്റ്റിക്സ് എങ്ങനെ ചെയ്യുന്നതെന്ന് മനസ്സിലാക്കും. Every quarter, every year, every quarter, month and year, organized sector in the statistics government samples, it has a survey mechanism where it surveys and gets and estimates the growth rate of the organized sector. Unorganized sector അങ്ങനത്തെ ഒരു സാമ്പിളിംഗ് ചെയ്യാൻ വലിയ പാടാണ് regularly, because it's got millions of sectors, organizations, ചെറിയ kirana stores and plumbers and electricians and unorganized കണ്ടമാനം ആൾക്കാർ who are not in the formal economy. അവരുടെ കണക്കൊന്നും കറക്റ്റ്, അവർ ടാക്സ് കൊടുക്കുന്നില്ല, അവർക്ക് ചിലപ്പോൾ ബാങ്ക് അക്കൗണ്ട് വരെ ഇല്ല. So you can't estimate. But what the government actually does is that every 5 years the government of India does a very detailed survey of the unorganized sector and estimates the growth rate and other data also. അപ്പോൾ ഈ ലാസ്റ്റ് സർവേ ചെയ്തത് 2016 before demonetization. And this is a regular process. ഇത് പണ്ടേ മുതൽ 5 കൊല്ലം കൂടുമ്പോഴാണ് ഈ അൺഓർഗനൈസ്ഡ് സെക്ടറിന്റെ ഗ്രോത്ത് റേറ്റ് സാമ്പിൾ ചെയ്യുന്നത്. അപ്പോൾ ഈ ഇടയ്ക്കത്തെ ഈ 2 സാമ്പിളിന്റെ ഇടയ്ക്ക് ഒരു 4 കൊല്ലം 5 കൊല്ലം ഈ ഉണ്ടല്ലോ, ആ സമയത്ത് വാട്ട് ഇസ് ദ ഗ്രോത്ത് റേറ്റ് ഓഫ് ദി അൺഓർഗനൈസ്ഡ് സെക്ടർ? അപ്പോൾ നമുക്ക് സാമ്പിളിംഗ് ഇല്ല. അപ്പോൾ ദ മെത്തേഡ് യൂസ്ഡ് ബൈ ദ ഗവൺമെന്റ്, സെൻട്രൽ ഗവൺമെന്റ്, ആൻഡ് ഫോർ മെനി ഇയേഴ്സ്, ഈ ഗവൺമെന്റിന് മാത്രമല്ല, നേരത്തെ ഗവൺമെന്റ് ചെയ്തുകൊണ്ടിരുന്നു, ഓർഗനൈസ് സെക്ടറിന്റെ ഗ്രോത്ത് റേറ്റ് എത്രയാ അത് പ്രോക്സി ആയിട്ട് അൺഓർഗനൈസ് സെക്ടറിന്റെ ഗ്രോത്ത് റേറ്റ് ആയിട്ട് ഇടും. So let's say you have a table, 55% of the economy has a growth rate of, let's say, 10%. Unorganized sector, 45% of the economy growth rate അറിയില്ല, അപ്പോൾ അതും 10% ആക്കിയിട്ട് കാൽക്കുലേറ്റ് ചെയ്യും. Which means ഈ intervening, the years between the samples, നമ്മൾ കാണുന്ന growth rate of the unorganized sector is the same as the organized sector. അങ്ങനെ പ്രോക്സി ഇടുന്നു. So actual നമ്മൾ കാണുന്ന figure, growth rate of the organized sector is projected as the growth rate of the total economy. This is normally okay, because if anything happens to the economy, it should affect more or less both sectors similarly. But what happened was demonetization occurred after the last sampling. നമുക്ക് എല്ലാവർക്കും അറിയാം, demonetization actually impacted the unorganized sector much more than the organized sector. അപ്പോൾ എന്ത് സംഭവിച്ചെന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ അൺഓർഗനൈസ്ഡ് സെക്ടറിന് ഭയങ്കര അടി കിട്ടി. സോ ഇറ്റ് ഇസ് നോട്ട് ഓൺ ദ സെയിം പാത്ത് ആസ് ദി ഓർഗനൈസ്ഡ് സെക്ടർ. അപ്പോൾ ഇത് എസ്റ്റിമേറ്റ് ചെയ്യാൻ നമുക്ക് ഫിഗേഴ്സ് ഇല്ലാത്തതുകൊണ്ട് certain economists who study the unorganized sector have actually looked at employment, or rather unemployment, because 90% വരെ ആൾക്കാർ അൺഓർഗനൈസ്ഡ് സെക്ടറിലാണ് ജോലി ചെയ്യും. സോ അൺഎംപ്ലോയ്മെന്റ് ഫിഗർ അവർക്ക് എന്തെങ്കിലും പറ്റിയാൽ അൺഎംപ്ലോയ്മെന്റ് ഷുഡ് ഷൂട്ട് അപ്പ് dramatically, which is exactly what we have seen on the reports, whether it is by CMI or even the government reports which are shown late, that unemployment spiked up before COVID. Our estimate, which our unemployment figures in the idea which economists have estimated that the unorganized sector has been shrinking by at least 5% a year, or 5% to 10%. So I have taken 5% as a conservative figure. Unorganized sector has been growing pre-COVID or shrinking at about 5%. The organized sector, the last figure we got was about 4 or 4.5% last quarter previously. Was the growth rate, which was for the organized sector. Total GDP growth rate is the organized sector growth rate, because that is the proxy at about the data series change in the GDP growth. I'm not getting into the mechanics of it because we don't have time, but suffice to say that first term Modi government in the chief economic advisor Arvind Subramanian, who has resigned after the first term, or a paper എഴുതിയിട്ടുണ്ട് where he very clearly says that ഇപ്പോഴത്തെ GDP figures, which are organized sector figures, are overestimated by about 2 to 2.5%. അതുകൊണ്ട് ഇപ്പോൾ നമ്മളൊരു 4 to 4.5% ആയിരുന്നെങ്കിൽ കഴിഞ്ഞ ക്വാർട്ടറിലെ GDP figures, which is the organized sector figures, അത് ആക്ച്വലി ഒരു 2% ഉള്ളായിരുന്നു എന്ന് പുള്ളിയുടെ analysis. So let's take that figure. So if the organized sector, consisting of 55% of the GDP, has a 2% growth rate pre-COVID, and the unorganized sector, which is 45% of the GDP, had a minus 5% growth, the actual growth in the economy was not a growth, but a recession. We had, let's say, minus 1.15 drop in growth. Okay, so that is negative growth. The pre-COVID economy was actually already in recession. Okay, that is what I believe. So what happened? What has happened in the economy? In Kerala, the situation 2015 economy weak down in the Gulf crisis, 15, 16 demonetization, 17 GST impact. 2018 we had Pralayam, we had Nipah virus. 2019 we again had the second Pralayam. So continuously every year Indian economy as a whole, if you look at it, 2016 demonetization, 2017 GST. These two adipichu vanna factors. Okay, and since it impacted the unorganized sector much higher, demand was. So we were actually in a demand recession. So what happens to a company? Company, I'm not a very strong company, I'm an average company. Demonetization. I don't take the right actions to counter it. I'm following the wrong approach to business. I believe the official statistics that normally 7% growth and normalize business. What happens is, let's say I'm a 10 crore or 12 crore yearly turnover of a company. I run into a 1 crore loss. And the working capital erode. Cover I take a 1 crore loan. I probably already have some loans. I take an additional 1 crore loan, hoping that next year things will improve. Next year I'll be able to start paying off those loans once the economy improves. അടുത്ത വർഷവും വീണ്ടും economy താഴോട്ട് പോകും, വീണ്ടും ഞാൻ ലോസിൽ പോകും. അപ്പം ഈ 1 crore additional liability ഇൻട്രസ്റ്റും കൊടുക്കണം, പ്ലസ് ലോസും ഉണ്ട്. So now next year I have to take an additional loan of maybe 1.5 crores in order to cover my eroded working capital. അങ്ങനെ ഒരു 3-4 കൊല്ലം കഴിയുമ്പോൾ many companies are in a situation that, let's say, they have about 4 to 5 crore loan for a 10 crore turnover company. High debt. The high debt companies are actually weak because namaka debt and interest to pay they better. You can't avoid whether your business goes down or goes up, you still have to pay the EMIs or the interest. And many customers, a recession oriented economy, customers in a cost pricing is a big issue. Our key price, they are not willing to pay your interest costs. Either you don't price your products properly and you don't sell, or you price your products aggressively but your loss increases. In a situation, pre-COVID situation, economy, fundamental businesses are very weak because of high debt. So what is the lockdown impact? The 45-day or whatever lockdown is, the impact is huge, unimaginable actually. I'm not saying it's not necessary. Lockdown from the economic point of view, it's like hitting a brick wall. As you can see in the picture, that is the impact of a total lockdown. It's much worse than the financial crisis of 2008. And this is something that I never thought I'd be able to say. That is even worse than demonetization. I till date, I used to think that demonetization was one of the worst things ever to occur in an economy. It is actually worse than demonetization. So you can imagine how serious the situation is. It is affecting the poorest people disproportionately. Livelihood, daily wages, livelihood illa. They don't have our savings completely going. Unemployment is going up. It's going to affect the unorganized sector very badly. A lot of jobs are going to. Unemployment has already spiked. The latest figures of CMI were showing about 24% unemployment as per the statistics during lockdown. This unemployment will reduce demand dramatically because they are poor people. The numbers are huge, and they were driving the consumer demand in India for basic essentials. Again, this is a simultaneous supply and demand shock. Demand lockdown non-essential services and commodities and production okay, because everything is shut down, and even essential services many factories initially shut down, transportation line, raw material. So, they are slowly, essential services have slowly started to come back, but they're probably running at 30 to 40 or 50% of capacity overall. We've had a simultaneously demand and supply shock to the economy. The impact is huge. Now, after lockdown, this cluster containment, the red, orange, green concept which is what I hope, because any lockdown cover, I don't think there'll be any economy left. So what will happen in that situation is that economy will not be able to run at full throttle, full speed because lockdown, area non-essential services out of raw materials in the shortage, social distancing norms. For example, or shop or restaurant and then of course certain sectors of the economy like cinema theaters, gyms, swimming pools, will be the first to be closed and the last to be open. So all these impact on the economy will be very big. Lockdown economy, depending on the state, can run between 30 to 60, 70% of the normal situation in this red, orange, green zone kind of concept. Again, shortages of supply will occur from time to time. Even clients of mine who are doing very well now, we are seeing shortages of supply. We are doing contingency planning because if a critical factory infection complete infection labors quarantine suddenly supply will stop. Then we have this import problem. I mean, a lot of countries where we're importing from, after shortage, for example, we import a lot of oil from Malaysia, Indonesia. After lockdown, what is the impact? Okay, with a shortage, you can expect shortages of supply will occur from time to time over the next 1 to 2 years. There's also a very significant chance of social unrest because if restrictions and people who are driven to the wall, especially the marginalized. Because wrong notions and plus people are very worried, they're desperate. If social unrest happens, we will see rapid action force being deployed, army deployed. Area activity stops because you'll be under curfew, section 144. Area chance. So this is going to be a very big drag on the economy, and it's going to delay recovery significantly. But this is the only way to go forward. I mean, this is actually better than having a total lockdown continuously. One very important factor is the government of India's actions to mitigate this crisis, because actually the only entity capable of doing anything is the government of India. State governments fund they depend on the central government, who can actually print notes effectively. The fiscal deficit my belief is that till date, the central government reaction has been inadequate and late. Our which they have identified. Poor alkarkum, marginalized alkarku, package to alleviate problems. Small and medium sector, micro, small, medium sector, package because to restart and to ensure that they don't situation. And of course, to help some of the large corporates who are also in serious trouble. The moon area amount. So that amount, my belief is that the central government has kept the total amount that they can spend at a low limit, and they're trying to divide this amount between these three sectors. But first, the finance minister announced a package of 1.7 lakh crore for the poor, which was actually a sham. I will detail it because a lot of it was repackaging and front loading of existing schemes. The actual amount that will be spent will be much less than 1 lakh crore. So this is actually satisfactory because year our fund support that has been miserly, to put it in other words. Another thing is, if you look at MSMEs, everyone paid, a lot of people paid salaries for March, the 24th work March. I believe that in April, many people are not in a position to pay salaries. Okay? And people who are in a position to pay 1 month's salary or 2 months are actually thinking about it because our salary their cash reserve will disappear, and then after a couple of months, if they're running a loss, they will close down. Unless some sort of support, proper support is given, particularly to MSMEs and corporates quickly, there's going to be a lot of salary non-payment and salary cutting, and ultimately a lot of people are going to be laid off in the coming weeks and months, okay, which will again reduce demand and cause the economy to go into a even worse situation. I believe the central government has so far only committed far less than 1% of the GDP to support the economy. And if you look at other major economies who have gone from 3%, 10%, even Germany is supposed to be doing 32% of GDP, which we don't need 32% of GDP. But I believe that at least 3% or 4% of GDP should be used as a stimulus. Such a 6 lakh crore in the range of 7 lakh crore in but because today, the fiscal deficit is not a problem. Every country is throwing a fiscal deficit to the winds, whatever it takes in a situation, economy recession mitigate it's worth doing that. Okay? We can take a risk at this particular point of time because this is a standard practice. So we won't be, treated as a outlier. India discipline all countries discipline. Unfortunately, I don't think that's what's going to happen. I think that fiscal deficit or constraint maybe 1 or 2% government of India thought process, because that is the only thing which explains the miserly poor people's package and the delay in announcing MSMEs and corporates. Of course, the RBI has given a moratorium, but that doesn't. And the RBI will decide to do effectively. They'll have to do a waiver, and even that has not been done. A waiver for 3 months would have been more effective than a moratorium. Moratorium means you just don't pay now, but you have to pay later. But late 3 months from now, if you're running huge losses, you still have to pay 3 months interest or EMI. So that's not a whatever it takes kind of package. So, and I don't blame the RBI. RBI limitation on that. It's actually the government of India, which is the only player which is capable of actually doing something. So let's look at the economic impact in short. If you look at the axis, I have actual GDP growth, 0, positive and negative, and the orange line is the GDP growth figures. So before demonetization, we were in positive territory. As you can see, after demonetization, our growth rate dropped dramatically. Then GST happened, and we continued to go down. I believe the central government did not take the appropriate actions, so we continued to go down, and we went into actual recession, as I mentioned earlier. That was a situation when the COVID-19 has hit us. Now we have implemented total lockdown, which means the growth rate will even go deeper. The depth of the recession is going to be much deeper. And hopefully, if we raise the lockdown, at least the economy will partially open up. But with partial lockdowns and red, green, yellow, and orange scenario, economy will continue to go down for some time and then probably plateau. And then hopefully, once a vaccine comes in, the economy will start picking up. Some of you may see that I have not even shown on my graph positive growth because I actually don't know. The positive growth rate, actual positive growth, not the statistics that the government is actually releasing. I think it's going to take a significant amount of time, maybe years, before we look at the actual positive growth in the economy. I am being pessimistic, but this is what we should plan for. Economy picks up faster, great. So what's the impact on the market as such? So whatever market you're in, this is what I believe will happen. Strong businesses will dominate. If you look at this chart, the top line is actually market size. Whichever market you're playing in, that's the market size. I believe that market will shrink, and depending on the industry. Some may shrink very fast. Some essentials may not shrink so much. So it will continue to go down. And then we sort of plateau, and then assuming a vaccine comes in and economic activity recovers, then hopefully it will start going up. The more interesting part is the share of the strong, average, and weak businesses in this market. I believe very strongly that strong businesses' market share will grow exponentially during this period. For example, if you can see my pointer, like this was the share of the strong businesses at the start of this crisis. At here, the strong business market share will be much, much higher. And by strong business, I don't mean big business. It could be a strong small business, and it can be strong big business. They're going to be weak big businesses and weak small businesses. So strong doesn't mean large. It could be large and small, doesn't matter. So this is what I believe is going to happen, because weak businesses for a close down chain, average businesses will become weak, most of them, and will also close down, which will impact the market very badly, unemployment in the investment, demand in the investment. So just to differentiate what I mean by strong and weak, I'll just give an example, some examples of characteristics of a strong business versus a weak business. In my opinion, a strong business would be one which has literally zero loans at the start of the COVID crisis. A weak business would be having high debt. A strong business would be running cash surplus before COVID-19. A weak business would be running cash negative before COVID-19 and taking loans to cover the shortfall. A strong business would be definitely profitable before COVID-19, whereas a weak business would be running a loss, because as it is cash negative up, even depreciation would be removed. It will be at a running loss. Employee productivity would be very high for strong businesses and very weak for a comparable weak business. I'll just give you an example here. Over the last few years, the market has been in a recessionary condition. So customers have been demanding lower prices, value for money. Strong companies are able to, have been able to give those kind of pricing, those kind of offers to the customers, which enables their salespeople to sell more. For example, I'm going to offer a company salesman, let's say monthly, because he's able to meet the market demand for the kind of products and the kind of pricing that is needed. Whereas a weak business in the problem, either our pricing because our costing is no mini price our range loss sale loss will continue. Second option is that our price offering. Okay, we are forced to offer this price. The offering. So what happens is losses will occur. Okay. So either way, employee productivity, supply salary when the employee productivity is very poor. That's the difference between strong and weak businesses. Why I'm saying employee productivity is much higher. Even overheads, corporate overheads. Our corporate overheads, which is a strong business, will be doing much higher sales and GP, which means productivity is much higher compared to a weak business. Again, low overheads, high overheads, which I've explained. A characteristic of a strong business is that they take appropriate decisions quickly, very quickly. They are way ahead of the curve. Whereas in weak businesses, the analyze it takes a long time. And even then, they don't take the appropriate decision, because, for example, cost if you take a late decision, you have to cut costs drastically. It doesn't really save the situation. Okay, so these are the kind of decision makings that the difference in decision making between a strong and a weak business. Another very important factor which has helped in this COVID situation is the strong businesses have a very good relationship with suppliers, and weak businesses have normally a very poor relationship with their suppliers. I'll tell you, luckily, or because of their work, most of my clients are doing extremely well. But we've had suppliers asking us, how come your sales are going up? Clients in the sales are going down, whereas yours are going up in the same area. Suppliers curious, they're trying to figure out what are we doing, and payments volumes are going up. So we have, they're willing to support us, because something is happening. Our strong business is doing something unique, something different, because most of the other customers that they're dealing with are going down. Payments are becoming weaker, volumes are going down. Weak businesses have a very poor relationship. Supplier support as a strong business, they're willing to give. because they're saying that this company will survive. There is a weak business support because why throw money, good money after bad? No level like relationships work out here. So this is I mean, there are many other characteristics, the difference between these two, but I just thought I'll give a fair sample for you to look at. So the next is I have had to classify businesses in different categories to get the thought process ready for this COVID situation. First thing is that online businesses, which are mostly online oriented, a lot of startups, a lot of digital marketing firms, things like that, which can run online, maybe software companies to some extent. Actually, online operations not or they can survive on online as an online company without having to be offline. That is one sector, which are the top. Then the other sector, obviously, is offline-oriented companies. I mean, you may have online parts of your business online load but most of your business offline with face-to-face, like manufacturing or distribution. When retail people have to come and to deliver the goods. Adil difference essential businesses and non-essential businesses. Because what we are seeing is the COVID-19 situation, essential businesses are allowed to run even when there are problems in the hotspots, orange zone, essential. Whereas non-essential get closed very fast. So now we'll have to treat these two types of businesses very differently. Essential, unless it's a hotspot, sale operations, things will slowly come to normal. You can do business normally if you're an essential business, subject to supply shortages, labor infected, we can act more normal than a non-essential business. In non-essential also, I've had to divide, thought process will divide into two, local and regional. For example, a barber shop, local, Saltur. He's very vulnerable. Our area hotspot, the complete business is zero. So it is very different from, example, a regional chain of stores, all Kerala chain of stores. Pala district or pala area hotspot non-essential business. Okay, so that's the classification that we need to look at. And within that, obviously, services business like hospitals and things like that, barber shops, retail, distribution, manufacturing. The actions taken in each would be significantly different. Analyze or action plan, there will be a specific action plan. There may be some commonalities, but in significant parts they will be different. We cannot look at businesses with a common thing. We have to define whether they are in these different categories, and the action taken, the action plan that we do has to be different for all these categories. Just to give you a small example, for essential business market dynamics. So let's say the market volume pre-corona was the dotted line. For essential business post-corona, you can assume that the market will shrink a little bit. For variety fast moving items, premium demand. So you can expect a shrinking of the market size, which you can see in the red line. But then what happens is, chala area work in area lockdown or hotspot problem sale market at our market survey in the market in the total volume. Let's say we Kerala. District hotspot complete lockdown it's not easy. Okay. But it's very rare that your entire sales will be closed. So this is the kind of scenario that you can expect if you're an essential business. Now, if you're a local player, non-essential business, as you can see, pre-coronavirus market size is dotted line or a significant drop in market because the non-essential business in the correct. But one big risk is that since you're a local player, close down red zone or hotspot so that means chala samayathu nammala business literally zero load. So you need a plan for that. I mean, this is very different from the previous scenario. Each scenario, you need a different plan. You cannot have the same plan as an essential business. Okay? And similarly, a regional non-essential business plan, consumer durable chain of stores. What will happen is our area, particular area, lockdown ayal or red zone ayal, our shops maybe other shops which are in green zones may run. So they will also have a fluctuation, but probably their sales may not go to zero. These are very different dynamics. What kind of action we should take, what kind of changes we should bring into our business. So let's finally look at a sample action plan for a restaurant. And one of my clients is a restaurant, and restaurants as being an essential services. So we have been, implementing an action. We created an action plan, a 3-phase action plan, and we are implementing that action plan. And the first phase has been implemented quite successfully. We're looking at phase 2 and phase 3. And either I thought rather than talking generically about what we should do, cashing and managing, I thought it would be better if I gave you a case study of one business. Now all these actions that are taken, business and applicable, you'll have to take different actions. But there detail, scope, speed, then this is the kind of action that you should be taking in your business, which will be different. The actions may be different depending on the category of business that you are in. I'm sure that many people are already, have implemented action plans and are doing quite well. But this is mostly for people who have not really geared up and taken this seriously. That we need to plan for this post-COVID world level. In India, plan. It's a lot more things that we are doing, but I've just tried to truncate it so that you get a feel. And I hope this will be the most useful part of the presentation. Trigger you to to create your own plan if you have not created your own plan to date. So this restaurant is in a city in Kerala. I'm not naming the restaurant, but this is a client of mine, and I've been working with them for a couple of years now. Before lockdown, the figures are sort of rounded up just for simplicity, but anyhow, sales breakup was about 85% in dining, 10% takeaway sales, and 5% was about online home delivery. In fact, the online home delivery, pre-COVID or 6-8 months, we started grooming aggressively. We enrolled with online players like Swiggy, Zomato, and so on, which many hotels even today have not done because of the margin issue. Other than aggressivated, we had already gone into that sort of mode. But pre-COVID, or 5% of sale our PBT, profit before tax, approximately 10% of that monthly of our sales. And we are a comparatively strong business because we have zero loans and we actually have a cash reserve, cost of funded, which we can use to spend to cover any issues that we need. But as I said, I would consider ourselves to be a reasonably strong player in this market. So what we did was once this COVID crisis hit us and lockdown started, we created a 3-phase action plan. So phase 1 was what we needed to do in the lockdown. Phase 2 is the short-term plan post-lockdown, and we have a long-term plan for post-lockdown. We have actually implemented phase 1 mostly, and we are getting ready to implement phase 2 once the lockdown is lifted on 3rd of May, hopefully. Okay, so this is a synopsis of the plan. I'll get into the details. So when the lockdown happened, our restaurant was closed, as virtually all the restaurants in Kerala. But what we did was we realized very quickly that we needed, it's an essential service and home delivery will happen. And, this could be the normal, new normal. So we need to really kickstart our operations. So we restarted the kitchen operations within 5 days after the lockdown by convincing staff to come, especially the kitchen people. And obviously no in dining. Dining was not permitted. So we just focused on minimum staff strength of kitchen. We assumed that, okay, through home delivery, we were 5% of total sales before. So how much could we bring it up to? We initially said like, okay, 20-30% we'll start off with. Adanansarichulla staff and we prepared a lockdown menu. Variety complete limited because the staff in their production effectively variety was not possible. And we also focused on higher profit items like chicken roast and bigger 1 kg, 2 kg roast concept, so that we are able to increase the kitchen productivity. Also, for example, beef, selling beef is actually not very profitable because the prices are high. Chicken, if food prices are automatically. So chicken is an attractive kind of product which we push. പിന്നെ നമ്മുടെ ഒരു സൈക്കോളജി ഇൻ ലോക്ക്ഡൗൺ ഇസ് കുറെ ആൾക്കാർ 10-11 മണിയാകുമ്പോൾ എഴുന്നേൽക്കുള്ളൂ, ഉച്ചയാകുമ്പോൾ ബ്രേക്ക്ഫാസ്റ്റ് കഴിക്കും, എന്നിട്ട് പിന്നെ ഒരു 4 മണി ഒക്കെ ആകുമ്പോൾ അടുത്തൊരു മീല് ആലോചിക്കുന്നു. സോ if you look at the online delivery, it is peaking between 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. or 9 p.m. depending on the restrictions which were in place at that particular point. അപ്പോൾ അങ്ങനത്തെ ടൈപ്പ് ഓഫ് ഫുഡ് ആൾക്കാർക്ക് താല്പര്യം. So looking at what kind of products, where the profitability is, and how the productivity can be. അങ്ങനെ ഒരു ലോക്ക്ഡൗൺ മെനു നമ്മൾ ഉണ്ടാക്കി, and we marketed that lockdown menu through Facebook, Instagram, promoting home delivery through Swiggy, Zomato, and our own. Either a change. Most people who register on aggregators, our person would do that because our thought is I'm giving them 10%, 15%, 20% of my margin. Our order on Dakita. And when you had a lot of in-dining and takeaway, either additional business item, it makes sense. The further situation is we don't have in-dining and we don't have takeaway initially. We can't leave it to Swiggy or Zomato to give us orders and all that concept. And we aggressively, cost-effectively, promoted our restaurant and said that home delivery, Swiggy, and Zomato, and own. Many people don't use Swiggy, Zomato. They call us direct delivery. So because of that, our average daily home delivery sales increased to 50% of our pre-lockdown sales, which is approximately a 10 times increase in home delivery. And 5% ഏതുകൊണ്ടിരുന്ന ആ ലെവലിൽ നമ്മളിപ്പോൾ 50% ലെവലിൽ പഴയതിൻ്റെ 50%. So we were able to reduce our losses because നമുക്ക് 50% ക്യാഷ്, പഴയതിൻ്റെ 50% ക്യാഷ് വരാൻ തുടങ്ങി. മറ്റേത് we would have been at zero. We also promoted Easter and Vishu specials, and we were able to achieve on those days 70% of our pre-lockdown sales, which was very encouraging for us. Okay, about Ramzan, so we are looking at maybe we can do something in Ramzan. ഇതാണ് നമ്മൾ ഇംപ്ലിമെന്റ് ചെയ്തത്, which is way beyond our expectation. നമ്മൾ 20-30% എത്തുമെന്ന് നമ്മൾ വിചാരിച്ചു previous days, but we were able to push it up to about 50%, which was amazing. Because of the increase in volume, now working staff in a delivery, own delivery issue, plus kitchen staff volumes, we had to add a few more people. And as we were a strong company, we paid salaries to all the staff in March, even those who were not working. And we told the in-dining staff and non-working kitchen staff paid leave at the lockdown. And cash deficit, because although we reached 50% of sale, it's a deficit. Salary allowed to go to profit. So we have managed that cash deficit from our reserves. Cash reserve alone. Now, post-lockdown, what we are planning is that we want to increase our takeaway sales. Already, takeaway sales have slowly started because in the lockdown, you can go out and buy essentials, and some people are buying takeaway. Slowly picked up. Our next focus is to increase takeaway sales, and we hope with takeaway and home delivery, we will be able to achieve 100% of pre-lockdown sales, which is the target. Other achieve even 80-90% achieve, I think we'll be breaking. But digital marketing, Facebook, Instagram, and we are looking at value for money offerings, and we are also looking at additional discounts because we aggregated cost. Takeaway, pick Swiggy, Zomato, the cost. So we are looking at that aggressively, and luckily we are in an area where a lot of traffic flow is there. We expect people to move to takeaway rather than come for dining. Now, in dining, we are actually very negative about in dining at this point. We believe that volumes will be low because of social distancing. Number of number of tables. So we are looking at we are thinking of reducing the fixed salary for in-dining staff and increase their incentives. Because a fixed salary level, this is something that we are thinking about. Implementation is not going to be easy, but in-dining, contactless dining seat reserve pre-ordering concepts are these we'll have to experiment. But right now we are like sort of in-dining level planning. In-dining is something which will be a surplus or additional thing if we are able to do it profitably or even at least break even. We're looking at cutting expenses in the next post-lockdown. Excess manpower and completely remove because in-dining will not be running at full-fledged. Assuming that we can run at 100%, then maybe kitchen staff can be fully maintained. We're looking at retaining only the most productive employees and removing all non-productive employees. We cannot tolerate non-productive system. We cannot the market situation. We're looking at negotiating the rent with the landlord. The business is not viable with these kind of rents. So expense cutting is one part, a serious part, and we're looking at it very seriously. Long-term planning for lockdown is that online delivery is actually happening within 5-kilometer radius only, because the Swiggy, Zomato, and online people, they don't deliver beyond 5 kilometers because our productive people. So area we are covering quite decently, but there are 2 other heavily populated areas just outside the 5-kilometer radius, which are not being properly serviced. Our solution is take away, click aaki kayinjal, our long-term plan is avade hybrid cloud kitchen. Why I said hybrid is cloud kitchen is normally for home delivery. Our take away click if we are able to get a location where people can come and go, take away plus home delivery or cloud kitchen, we believe that if we start one hybrid kitchen, we should be able to reach a total sale of 125%. If previous activity 100%, and with this hybrid kitchen, we should look at 125. What we are looking for is small roadside restaurants which are available at low rent or at low asset prices. For restaurants, in fact, maybe some of them may continue for Ramzan, but after that, a lot of them will close down. So this is post-Ramzan. Once we have a hybrid kitchen, cloud kitchen, we will be utilizing our central kitchen in the last process hybrid kitchen in cloud kitchen in home delivery and takeaway plan. And we will be promoting only home delivery and takeaway. We don't expect our in-dining plan. The long-term plan, once the first hybrid kitchen, cloud kitchen works properly, we have one more pocket which we can see that target second hybrid cloud kitchen, and hopefully if all this works out, sale in 100 to 150% achieve our confidence. So this is a very shortened plan that we have shared with you. We have a lot of other things which we are doing. I thought this will give you a fair idea about how you should plan for your business in case you have not done it till date. So thank you. I think that ends my presentation. I've taken an hour and a half. Sorry for taking so much time. But I think now I'll give it to Vijay to moderate the question and answer session. Vijay, over to you.
Hi, sir. We've got a couple of questions that people are asking. So the first question that we had received was about the gold business. How will it be affected and how to overcome the issue? I think it will be a very general.
Yeah, so the gold business is again, it's a specific sector which needs to be analyzed separately. So you have several basic questions in the gold business. First thing is that the market will definitely go down, okay, because gold purchase is correct. So what you could expect is you may get an initial surge. Lockdown initially but on the long term, the gold business will go down. And what you will see is strong players will definitely dominate in the situation. Gold business will undo the issues under. How is the gold price going to play out in a doubt under, because the gold price has been shooting up over the last month or so. It has already been shooting up for the last four years, but it really went up once the COVID crisis happened. അപ്പോൾ അതിൽ പലർക്കും കൺഫ്യൂഷൻ ഉണ്ട് ബിക്കോസ് obviously gold is a safe haven. Prices വരുമ്പോൾ ഗോൾഡിലോട്ട് ആൾക്കാർ ഇൻവെസ്റ്റ്മെന്റ് മാറ്റും. ദാറ്റ്സ് എ പോസിറ്റീവ് ഫോർ പ്രൈസ്. നെഗറ്റീവ് എന്ന് പറയുമ്പോൾ കൺസ്യൂമർ ഡിമാൻഡ് കുറയും, റീസൈക്ലിംഗ് കൂടും, ഓൾഡ് ഗോൾഡ് ആയിട്ട് കണ്ടുപോകാൻ ആൾക്കാർ വരും. So lot of purchase will people, I think more jewelry people are expecting more old gold to come than new sales. Okay, so other gold price is an issue. So it's going to be a very tough market in my opinion, and jewelers really need to step up and take very, very drastic actions, which I don't have time to cover in this. In fact, I'm holding a session. I've been asked by the association to give a session on 30th on gold jewelry. So maybe those of you who would like to see that, you could join that session on 30th, where I'll be able to give you some pointers on how to solve. But anyhow, the industry will be affected very, very badly. That's for sure.
There's another general question about what are the new business opportunities arising during the post-COVID period. Would you like to answer that?
Yeah. So generally speaking, a lot of if you look at what's happening, a lot of shops, retail, the offline sales will drop because of social distancing. നമുക്ക് ഒരു ഷോപ്പിൽ 20 പേര് കയറാൻ പറ്റുള്ളൂ. അപ്പോൾ ഈ തള്ളി വന്ന ആൾക്കാർ വന്ന് വാങ്ങുന്ന ഒരു സിറ്റുവേഷൻ റൂൾ ആയിട്ട് പോകും. ഇറ്റ് മേ ഹാപ്പൻ ഫ്രം ടൈം. ആൾക്കാർ അലൗ ചെയ്യായിരിക്കും, പക്ഷെ അത് പോലീസ് വരും, പ്രശ്നമാവും, അത് മിക്കവാറും ഇൻഫെക്ഷൻ സ്പൈക്ക് ചെയ്യുമ്പോൾ സ്ട്രിക്റ്റ് ആവും. സോ ഈ ഓൺലൈൻ സെയിൽസ്, ഈവൻ ഡിഫറെന്റ് ഇൻഡസ്ട്രീസ് വിച്ച് ഹാവ് നോട്ട് ബീൻ തിങ്കിങ് അബൌട്ട് ഓൺലൈൻ സെയിൽസ്, അത് വരും. സോ I'm already seeing a spike in website development, e-commerce site development. Our business is a very huge opportunity. A lot of startups, a lot of people who are in the software field can actually look at that. I don't know how it's like that Y2K problem. Ellarkum or online site or e-commerce site to make up for the loss in offline sales that they believe will happen. Second thing is, digital marketing is a big issue because face to face, for example, direct marketing is going to be a big problem. Just to take gold business as an example. For a direct marketing, VT going and alkar jewelry, brochure, that's restricted out because that's a non-essential service. Other allow you need to get into marketing which is non-face to face. Okay, mass media which mass media most people cannot afford. But digital marketing is a big area and space which will open up. Home delivery. Delivery space under. So we have fellow players who are doing it, like Swiggy, Zomato doing the entire thing, Amazon, Flipkart and all. But Korea business are home delivery. So many shops are doing home delivery now in this situation. Actually, I buy a couple of shops which are doing home delivery, but adana oru setup illa avara staff ne vechu cheya. So that's also a big So I think all businesses scope if you're a strong player, okay? Because unfortunately, Korea weak players put. That's a very unfortunate thing. A lot of unemployment, but they will not be able to the reading. So the opportunities are there even in your own sector if you are a strong player. Weak players and any good advice on because I actually believe it's very, very difficult for them to survive this kind of situation.
This is from a distributor. The next question: what should be the approach on investment on stocks in distribution business? When do you think supply chain will be normal? Because he's saying that if you're placing an order with company like Unilever, there are chances of funds getting blocked due to supply chain logistics issue, which he said is currently happening now.
Yeah, that's a problem for a national player. But from what I understand, only essential services business distributor. Levers is mostly essential services. So actually, he's in a better position compared to many people. His supply chain issues will slowly sort it out. Will get sorted out over time. But obviously, I'm 100% odikkan pattula. So my advice is that fast moving items like the stock because other edakadik short item. Okay, so if you're fast moving, don't take things which are which fast moving industry. Please understand that Variman in Korea, alkar conservative. It will be value for money products mostly. So I am advising by FMCG and clients. We have acted and we have stocked up manufacturers we have stocked up on raw materials, retailer or distributor we have stocked up on essential services because, and that has paid off. But we stocking up, we are getting sales right now because the shortage, essential services, essential businesses, their shortages are significant. They will continue, and demand will not drop to that level compared to non-essential services. If you have the money to invest and stock up, it is a positive opportunity. So that would be my advice for essential services people.
Okay. So there was a question by Arun Reddy. How do you win the in-dining customers' confidence at a restaurant once the lockdown ends?
Very difficult. In fact, that's the first point where when we had a discussion with my client, the reopened chain, I told him that you forget about in-dining. Assume that lockdown കഴിഞ്ഞാലും in-dining ഇല്ല. ആലോചിക്കുക അങ്ങനെയാണ് നമ്മൾ ഈ ഹോം ഡെലിവറിയെ പറ്റി ഇത്രയും അഗ്രസീവ് ആയി പോയത്. Unfortunately, a lot of restaurant people, I believe, are thinking that in-dining is going to come back, and അതുകൊണ്ട് ഈ ഒരു ആക്ഷൻ എടുക്കാതിരിക്കുക. See, in-dining is going to be very, 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 very unproductive. നമുക്ക് social distancing norms വെച്ച് മെയിൻറ്റെയിൻ ചെയ്യണം ഇത്രയും പേര്. First of all, if you look at what's happening in China, നമ്മൾ number of tables കുറയ്ക്കണം. You need to keep distance. China ഇപ്പോൾ സംഭവിക്കുന്നു. Number two is നമുക്ക് ഇത്രയും പേര് കൂടുതൽ സീറ്റ് ചെയ്യാൻ പാടില്ല. There has to be distance between. Then നമ്മൾ ഓരോന്ന് ടേബിൾ തമ്മിൽ പാർട്ടീഷൻ ചെയ്യുന്നുണ്ട്. So it's not an open area. Number three is that what I read, a recent article which is very interesting, is that ഒരു ഡിഷ് നമ്മൾ ഷെയർ ചെയ്യാൻ വാങ്ങിച്ചാൽ ഷെയർ ചെയ്യാൻ പാടില്ല. ഓരോ ആൾക്കാർ ഇൻഡിവിജ്വൽ ഡിഷ് കഴിക്കാൻ പറ്റും. ഓക്കെ, അപ്പൊ അങ്ങനത്തെ കുറെ റെസ്ട്രിക്ഷൻ വരുമ്പോൾ the charm of going to a restaurant goes down, the cost goes up, because ഇപ്പൊ ഇതൊക്കെ ചെയ്ത് നമ്പർ ഓഫ് ത്രൂപുട്ടും കുറഞ്ഞിട്ട് നമ്മൾ പ്രോഫിറ്റബിലിറ്റി ഭയങ്കരമായിട്ട് ബാധിക്കും. So my belief is that it's going to be very difficult with the previous volume. Then ആൾക്കാർക്ക് പേടി. Yes, please understand, this is a 1 year, 2 year situation. I believe the vaccine ഒക്കെ നാളെ വന്ന് miraculously നമ്മൾ ഇതെല്ലാം പോയാൽ okay, or else by God's grace the virus disappear ചെയ്താൽ okay. But barring these two situations, we are looking at a 1 to 2 year situation of this kind of infection. Please understand that നിങ്ങളുടെ ഒരാൾ ഇൻഫെക്റ്റഡ് ആയാൽ നിങ്ങളുടെ ആ ഒരു ക്ലസ്റ്റർ ഓഫ് എംപ്ലോയീസ് ആ ഏരിയ ആ ഷോപ്പ് പൂട്ടിപ്പോകും. അല്ല എല്ലാവരും നേരെ പോയി ഐസൊലേഷനിലോട്ട് പോകും. They can't work. Most of the isolation is government hospitals. അവിടെ നിന്നും വർക്ക് നമ്മളിപ്പോൾ we are seeing some of the conditions which is coming out. It's not great. ഈ home quarantine is only for suspect cases. നിങ്ങൾ ടെസ്റ്റ് ചെയ്ത് പോസിറ്റീവ് ആയ നേരെ ഐസൊലേഷനിലോട്ട് പോവുക. So the risk of infection is very high. Okay, so ഞാൻ ഇൻഫെക്റ്റഡ് ആയാൽ എൻ്റെ ടോട്ടൽ ബിസിനസ് എൻ്റെ വർക്ക് ഞാൻ ഐസൊലേഷനിലോട്ട് പോയാൽ കംപ്ലീറ്റ് ഫോളോ ആവും. സോ വൈ ഷുഡ് ഐ ടേക്ക് ദാറ്റ് റിസ്ക്? സോ ട്രാവലിംഗ് will be reduced. People have to reduce traveling. People have to reduce face-to-face meetings for the next 1 year. I'll just give you an example, personal example. എന്നോട് പല ക്ലയൻസും പറഞ്ഞു, നമുക്ക് എസ്പെഷ്യലി നോൺ എസെൻഷ്യൽ ക്ലയൻസ് എന്നോട് സംസാരിച്ചിട്ട് പറഞ്ഞു, 3-ാം തീയതി കഴിഞ്ഞില്ലെങ്കിൽ അന്ന് 21st കഴിഞ്ഞിട്ട് നമുക്ക് മീറ്റ് ചെയ്യാമെന്നൊക്കെ പറഞ്ഞു. അപ്പൊ ഞാൻ പറഞ്ഞു ഞാൻ വരുന്നില്ലെന്ന്. അപ്പൊ they were all shocked. Why? I said, look, this is not a small short period of time. Lockdown കഴിഞ്ഞല്ല ശരിയാവും. ഇത് നമ്മളവിടെ വന്നാൽ, ഫസ്റ്റ് ഓഫ് ഓൾ ഐ ഡോണ്ട് വാണ്ട് ഫേസ് ടു ഫേസ് മീറ്റിംഗ്സ് വിത്ത് യു ബിക്കോസ് ഐ ക്യാൻ ബി എ കാരിയർ. ഞാൻ ഇങ്ങനെ കറങ്ങി നടക്കുമ്പോൾ ദ ചാൻസസ് ഓഫ് ഗെറ്റിംഗ് ഇൻഫെക്റ്റഡ് ആർ വെരി ഹൈ. അത് ഞാൻ നിങ്ങൾക്ക് കൊണ്ട് തന്നാൽ നിങ്ങളുടെ ടീം മൊത്തം ഐസൊലേഷനിൽ പോകും. നമ്പർ 1. Number 2 is, why do you have face to face meetings? Why should you have ഏതെങ്കിലും ഒരാൾക്ക് face to face ഇൻഫെക്ഷൻ വന്നാൽ മൊത്തം ടീം. So in my case, I've been very pushy. എൻ്റെ മീറ്റിംഗ്സ് നടക്കൂല, നമുക്ക് സൂമോ അല്ലെങ്കിൽ അതേ പറ്റൂല. And that's happened. Mostly essential services clients have been having meetings because their activities happen. മറ്റവരോട് ഞാൻ ഷോർട്ട് മീറ്റിംഗ്സ് മാർക്കറ്റിംഗ് കൂട്ടുക, മറ്റേത് റെഡി ആക്കാന്ന് പറഞ്ഞിട്ട് ഇങ്ങനെ വെച്ചിട്ടുണ്ട്. And I've already told them categorically that I will not come for meetings for 1 year, for 1.5 years until this problem is solved. And you should not have any meetings and no traveling. അതിന്റെ ഒരു പാർട്ടായിട്ട് going to in-dining is a risk. ഒരു ചെറിയ ആ സെയിം ഫുഡ് ടേക്ക് അവേ ആയിട്ടോ വീട്ടിൽ നിന്ന് ഹോം ഡെലിവറി ആയിട്ട് വാങ്ങിച്ചു. സോ ഇൻ-ഡൈനിങ് people will do it. I'm not saying people won't come for in-dining, but ഇത് കുറെ കഴിയുമ്പോൾ in-diningന്റെ റിസ്ക് മനസ്സിലായി കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ it's you're actually നിങ്ങളുടെ വരുമാനം മുഴുവൻ പോകാനുള്ള സാധ്യതയുള്ള സാധനം നിങ്ങൾ ചെയ്യും. So nobody will take that risk. So confidence building is possible, but in my opinion, it's not going to be profitable. In fact, as I said in my case study, ഞങ്ങൾക്ക് in-dining break even ആക്കാൻ പറ്റുമെങ്കിൽ മാത്രമേ നമ്മൾ കണ്ടിന്യൂ ചെയ്യുള്ളൂ എന്നുള്ള ലെവലാണ് ഞാനിപ്പോൾ സംസാരിക്കുന്നത്. My client has still to agree. but we are discussing that.
So we have a couple of general questions. One is on the footwear industry and one is on the advertising industry.
So what is the question? They want to know about
How will it be post COVID-19 or post lockdown?
So footwear industry is still classified as a non-essential industry, but hopefully it will start opening up over the period. And what I expect is you can expect a surge in footwear sales because people sale vera. But over a period, definitely you will see a reduction in sales. Retail in the problem, the same problem I said, retail throughput will be much less. We'll have to start thinking about. In fact, I've been discussing with the footwear retailer recently, and I was actually telling him that he needs to seriously consider home delivery, and online selection, which are things which we can't imagine in footwear. Okay, but people can't really think about it. I said you need to seriously think about it. At least within 3-4 kilometers radius, you need to start thinking. You need to tell people appointment right varanam. Appointment right vannittu because they can't wait. ഇത്രയും പേരെ കേറ്റാൻ പറ്റുള്ളൂ എന്നുള്ളൊരു റൂൾ വരുള്ളൂ. And selection, at least for routine selections, they should be able to select online and maybe pick it up, and or else you deliver. IE level footwear. So footwear will definitely shrink, but I believe that a lot of footwear people are in trouble, especially a lot of small players. So, I'm coming back to strong player, weak player concept. I think it can work. People can still do well. If you're a strong player, you can still do well because the market is not going to zero. But you will have to start thinking about these kind of activities. With relation to advertising, advertising is two. You have mass media advertising, where a lot of strong players may still continue to advertise, but I think definitely the budget overall will go down because profits will be shrinking, and to some extent, many people may decide to cut their budgets. One scope is digital marketing because the costing and is very effective, and people the face-to-face interaction actually virtually everyone smartphone and all India level smartphone is growing as a proportion. Digital marketing space to swing advertising has to be more result oriented. I'm sorry to say, entire thought process advertising is even today creative driven. So people create something great and then expect clients to accept that because we don't have a link to say. That will slowly change. Clients are going to be very discerning. Profit വളരെ strong ആയിട്ട് വരും. So you need to tailor your message or your marketing to that. If I do this for you, നിങ്ങളുടെ സെയിൽ കൂടും, അത് എനിക്ക് പ്രൂവ് ചെയ്യാനും പറ്റും. ആ പ്രൂഫ് ഉണ്ടെങ്കിൽ you can do well. ആ പ്രൂഫ് ഇല്ലെങ്കിൽ I'm sorry, you will not get business, in my opinion. Very, 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 very critical situation.
So we have a lot of questions. What we can do is we can ask people to maybe directly ask you questions. So if anybody wants to ask a question, please use the raise hand option, and then I will activate your mic, and then you can ask the question. I think the first question is from Shinto George. Mr. Shinto, you can speak. Please activate your mic.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Myself, Shinto George. My question is regarding automobile industry. Any short-term plan on after lockdown? So any suggestion from your end?
Yeah. So automobile industry is a like a capital goods kind of industry. It's similar to flats, especially depending if you're on the premium sector or not. So the first thing is that automobile sales is zero. We have to first clear. It will drop, but there'll be a sale. Lockdown, a lot of people will be planning to buy vehicles that they've already decided. So I'll just give you an example of another industry just so that you can correlate. For flat sales, a builder actually approached me several years ago about how to get out. He was in high debt for a debt to projects. I've been negative about the builder industry for the last 4 years. But I prefer not to take clients because it's like they're all in the wrong model. പുള്ളിയുടെ അടുത്ത് വന്നപ്പം ഹൈ ഡെറ്റും കുറേ പ്രോജക്ട്സും ഉണ്ട്. ഞാൻ പറഞ്ഞു ഇതൊന്നും നടക്കില്ല, ഡെറ്റ് കുറച്ചിട്ട് പ്രോജക്റ്റും കുറച്ചിട്ട് മര്യാദയ്ക്ക് നമുക്ക് ചെയ്യാൻ പറ്റുമെന്ന് നമുക്ക് ആലോചിക്കാം. സോ ഐ കാൻ കൺസൾട്ട് യു. ആൻഡ് ഹി ടുക്ക് ഇറ്റ് ഇൻ ദ റൈറ്റ് സ്പിരിറ്റ്. ആൻഡ് ഓവർ ദ ലാസ്റ്റ് 3-4 years he dropped his debt dramatically. ആൻഡ് ലോക്ക്ഡൌണിന് തൊട്ട് മുമ്പ് എന്നോട് പറഞ്ഞു കുറച്ച് ഡെറ്റേ ഉള്ളൂ, 4 പ്രൊജക്ട് ഉണ്ട് എന്നൊക്കെ പറഞ്ഞു. സോ ഹൗ ഡു ഐ ഗെറ്റ് ഔട്ട് ഓഫ് ദിസ്? ഐ സ്റ്റിൽ ഹാവ് ക്യാഷ് ഫ്ലോ പ്രോബ്ലംസ് എന്നൊക്കെ പറഞ്ഞു. ഞാൻ പറഞ്ഞു now you have to increase your sales. So what is the method that you're using for marketing? Obviously പുള്ളിക്ക് mass media ഒന്നുമില്ല. He said I'm doing digital marketing. I said good. So are you creating leads? What is the impact? He said great, I'm doing that. I'm getting about 100 leads per month, out of which നമ്മൾ site visit convert ചെയ്ത് അങ്ങനെ. I said great. I said, why are you limiting it to 100? അതുകൊണ്ട് നമുക്ക് ആ കോസ്റ്റ്. So he said I'm spending so much, like $20,000 a month per project. അതിന് no limit ഉണ്ട്. So actually $20,000 a month is actually very low budget, but yeah, the situation അങ്ങനെ. So we tried to figure out how to increase the digital lead. So പുള്ളിയുടെ digital agency actually backed off. They told him that ഈ ലോക്ക്ഡൌൺ കാരണം നമുക്ക് 2 ദിവസം കഴിഞ്ഞ് ലോക്ക്ഡൌൺ ഉണ്ടായി, നമുക്ക് പരസ്യം സ്റ്റോപ്പ് ചെയ്യാം, കാര്യമൊന്നുമില്ല, ആക്ടിവിറ്റി ഒന്നുമില്ല. എന്നെ വിളിച്ചു പറഞ്ഞു ഇങ്ങനെയാണ്. ഞാൻ പറഞ്ഞു ആബ്സൊല്യൂട്ട്ലി റോങ്. ഈ സമയത്ത് എല്ലാവരും വീട്ടിൽ കുത്തിരിക്കുന്ന സമയം, എല്ലാവർക്കും ഒരു പണിയുമില്ല. ഓക്കെ, ഈ സമയത്ത് വേണം നമ്മൾ മാർക്കറ്റിംഗ് ചെയ്യാൻ. So we picked up, we took another agency as a trial and gave them one project, separate project, which was not handled by the previous agency. And our aggressive idea, he got, 10 times the number of leads for the same spend. So whatever overhead lockdown advantage. Anyhow, suffice to say, within a couple of weeks, we have generated 300-400 leads, and out of which 32 site visits people have agreed to once the lockdown is exited. So ഞാൻ പറഞ്ഞു വന്നത്, as a dealer or as an automotive dealer, what you need to do during lockdown is accumulate prospects. അത് നമുക്കിപ്പോൾ ഫേസ് ടു ഫേസ് ഒന്നും ചെയ്യില്ല. ലീഡ് പോയി കണ്ടുപിടിച്ച് സെയിൽസ്മാനെ വിട്ടിട്ടൊന്നും നടക്കില്ല. You need to do digital marketing and create leads, and you need to talk to those. I was telling the flat guy, അവരെല്ലാ സെയിൽസ് ടീമും വീട്ടിൽ ഇരിക്കുക, അവരെല്ലാവരും കൂടി വിളിപ്പിച്ച് അതിൽ 80% or 70% of the customers are not real customers. Leads വരും, പക്ഷെ 10% customers were genuine എന്നാ പുള്ളി ഇപ്പം കണ്ടുപിടിച്ചേക്കുന്നത്. 32 leads വന്നിട്ടുണ്ട്. They are ready. Okay, all of them may not come, but it's much better position than doing nothing. So if you are an automobile dealer or a consumer dealer or non-essential products, പറ്റുന്ന സമയം ഇപ്പൊ നമ്മൾ പരസ്യം ചെയ്ത് ideally lead generate ചെയ്ത് customers generate ചെയ്തിട്ട് offer. See, many people will be giving offers, I'm sure, after this lockdown. Offer ഇപ്പൊ തന്നെ പറയാ, ലോക്ക്ഡൌൺ കഴിഞ്ഞിട്ട് ഇങ്ങനെ ഓഫർ ഉണ്ട്, ബൈ ഇങ്ങനെ ഇങ്ങനെ കിട്ടും. ആൾക്കാർ ഇൻട്രസ്റ്റോട്, whoever is interested will communicate with you. അവരായിട്ട് നിങ്ങൾ സംസാരിച്ചിട്ട് ഓക്കെ സർ ലോക്ക്ഡൌൺ ടൈമിൽ ടെസ്റ്റ് ഡ്രൈവ് തരാം, സോഷ്യൽ യു ക്യാൻ വിസിറ്റ് അവർ ഷോറൂം എന്നൊക്കെ പറഞ്ഞൊരു ആക്ടിവിറ്റി ചെയ്യേണ്ടി. ദാറ്റ്സ് ദ ഫസ്റ്റ് പാർട്ട്. ദ സെക്കൻഡ് പാർട്ട് ഇസ് നൗ യു വിൽ ഹാവ് ടു ലുക്ക് അറ്റ് യുവർ സെയിൽസ് ഫോഴ്സ് ആൻഡ് യുവർ എക്സ്പെൻസസ്. നമ്മൾ typically automobile dealership I've worked for, I know that is 30% or even less of the salesmen are outstanding. 30% are average and 30% are pathetic. Okay, and the average വെച്ചിട്ട് നമ്മൾ കണക്ക്. But in my clients, not automobile, I have not had automobile dealership for some time now, but all my other clients where we do sales, we have taken a stand that we cannot tolerate non-productive. Okay, നമ്മൾ നല്ല ഇൻസെന്റീവും കൊടുക്കും, ലോകത്തില്ലാത്ത കാശും കൊടുക്കും, you need to give us results. So over the last 3-4 years, we have converted our sales team into literally everyone being highly productive. And the advantage there is I don't have a very large management structure. പണ്ടെന്നൊക്കെ പറഞ്ഞ ഒരു ട്രെയിനിങ് ആൾ വേണം, ഒരു മോണിറ്ററിങ് ആൾ വേണം, സപ്പോർട്ട് ആൾ വേണം. എല്ലാവരെയും ഈ ബിലോ ആവറേജ് ആൾക്കാരെ പൊക്കാൻ വേണ്ടി നമുക്ക് ഭയങ്കര സപ്പോർട്ട് കൊടുക്കേണ്ടി വരും, ഓവർഹെഡ്സ്. അപ്പോൾ ഓവർഹെഡ്സ് കൂടും. പക്ഷെ അത് ഓക്കെയാണ് ബൂം ടൈമിൽ. മാർക്കറ്റ് പൊങ്ങുന്ന സമയത്ത് ഈ ഒരു ഞാൻ സോറി ഫോർ ദ വേർഡ്സ് ഐ എം യൂസിങ്, ഒരു പൊട്ടനെ വെച്ച് മുമ്പ് ഇരുത്തിയാലും അത് അത്യാവശ്യം കച്ചവടം കിട്ടും. അപ്പൊ അവനെ നമ്മൾ സപ്പോർട്ട് ചെയ്ത് മോണിറ്റർ ചെയ്ത് അവനെ ചീത്ത വിളിച്ച് റെഡിയാക്കി വരുമ്പോൾ അത്യാവശ്യം സെയിൽ കിട്ടിയാൽ നമുക്ക് പ്രോഫിറ്റ് ആയിരുന്നു. പക്ഷെ ആസ് ദ മാർക്കറ്റ് വെന്റ് ഡൗൺ, കോസ്റ്റിംഗ് ബിക്കേം എ പ്രോബ്ലം. അപ്പൊ നമ്മുടെ ക്ലയൻസിലൊക്കെ വി ഹാവ് എലിമിനേറ്റഡ് എൻറ്റയർ മിഡിൽ മാനേജ്മെന്റ്, ഈ സപ്പോർട്ടിംഗ് സ്ട്രക്ചർ ഒക്കെ വേണ്ടെന്ന് വെച്ചാൽ ഞാൻ സെയിൽസ്മാനോട് നമ്മൾ പറയുന്നത് പറഞ്ഞാൽ, നിങ്ങൾ മോട്ടിവേറ്റഡ് നല്ല ആൾക്കാരാണെങ്കിൽ ഞങ്ങൾക്ക് ഇങ്ങനത്തെ പരിപാടിയൊന്നും വേണ്ട, ഞങ്ങൾക്ക് റിസൾട്ട് മാത്രം മതി. I want to see my sales double, triple. I want to see your productivity double or triple so that I can pay you more. അപ്പോൾ അവർ ചോദിക്കുന്ന നമ്മളോട്, ഓക്കെ നല്ലൊരു സെയിൽസ്മാൻ ആണെങ്കിൽ ചോദിക്കും ഇങ്ങനെ ഒരു ഓഫർ കൊടുക്കാൻ പറ്റുമോ, ഇങ്ങനെയൊക്കെ. FMCG സ്പേസ്, I'll just give you an example. 4-5 കൊല്ലം മുമ്പ് നമ്മളൊരു സോപ്പ് 150 ഗ്രാം സോപ്പ് 20 രൂപയ്ക്ക് വിറ്റുകൊണ്ടിരുന്ന. If you look at the market, it's like buy one, get one free. That is 20 രൂപയ്ക്ക് 250 gram soap കിട്ടി. And this is the market pre-COVID, just before COVID. Buy four, initially buy four, get one, buy three, get one, buy two, get one, buy one, get one. In fact, pre-COVID, എൻ്റെ ഒരു ക്ലയന്റിന്റെ അവിടെ ഞങ്ങൾ ഡിസ്കഷൻ തുടങ്ങിയത് buy one, get two free എന്നുള്ള ലെവലിൽ എത്തിയാൽ നമ്മൾ എന്ത് ചെയ്യും എന്നുള്ള ആലോചിക്കണം. How do we do that profitably without compromising on quality? അപ്പം second link with sales, because dealership ആവും mostly service and sales മാത്രമല്ല, manufacturing models ഒക്കെ നിങ്ങളുടെ കയ്യിലാണ്. Sales productivity, because most dealership sales is not a profit making unit. Our sales in the productivity, we cannot tolerate unproductive sales. And അതിന്റെ ഒരു ഓവർഹെഡും സപ്പോർട്ട് പറ്റിയത്. Because customers will demand pricing. ഇപ്പൊ ഞാനൊരു വണ്ടി വാങ്ങാൻ റെഡി ആണെങ്കിൽ I have the money today, I am going to be very, very demanding. എനിക്ക് ലോകത്തില്ലാത്ത പ്രൈസും സർവീസും കിട്ടിയാലേ ഞാൻ നിങ്ങളുടെ വണ്ടി വാങ്ങും. So in short, I hope I answered the question.
I think we'll take maximum 2 to 3 more questions. I'll ask Mr. Antu, you can speak. Antu, please unmute your mic and Antu Narayan.
Mic is still muted.
Yeah, please unmute your mic and speak. Okay. Meanwhile, I think we'll take another question. One from Mr. Roy Kurian. Mr. Roy Kurian, please unmute your mic and speak.
Mr. In dining and the situation that is going to happen after COVID, even after the lockdown. Listening to that, I was wondering what will be happening to the educational institutions, schools, colleges, where a lot of students will be crowding into one class and things like that. So is it going to be taking a hell of a lot of time for those situations, the classroom thing to resume, or how is it going to be?
So recently I had a coaching center approach me. They're not my client, but they asked me what we should do. I normally take up clients only after sometimes after a lot sort of period of discussion. So we've been talking to each other for about a year. So he recently called me and asked me about this COVID thing. So I told him that, look, for coaching classes, which is not the Pakka education system, the same thing like I told the restaurant guy, please forget offline classes. Not going to happen. Okay, so you have to pivot your entire strategy onto online. Okay, we had a long discussion on the phone and I gave him several pointers. So the problem was that he had already started website develop. It was like half-hearted, and even previously they've been talking about online, like we've been talking about home delivery in the past for restaurant, but no action because either accept. I mean, for example, my case, I have been talking to my clients for online meetings for 4 years. I do accept in meet here situation. So now, because of the situation, we aggressively been able to implement. So coaching institutions have to think about 100% online in future. There's no question, and which is actually a saving because rent, property, class size is not an issue anymore. Okay, matter the different class or faculty, so the cost can actually go down for the students. Now, coming to the formal education center, if you look at what is happening abroad in China and all that, schools are not being opened. So because the high risk. So my belief is that given the situation in India, online most probably are the continue enter reading. Exams maybe we'll have to see, maybe for 10th standard, 12th standard. And it's already happened. See, like if you look at many colleges and many schools have already started online. So given the situation in the country today, I don't think it's practical to think that we're going to have offline classes continuously. In fact, ചില സ്ഥലത്ത് തുറന്നാലും എൻ്റെ അഭിപ്രായത്തിൽ അത് ഇതുപോലെ ഇൻഫെക്ഷൻ വരും, ആ ക്ലസ്റ്റർ കൂട്ടും. Imagine, look at the disruption. ചില സ്ഥലത്ത് എപ്പോഴും കൂട്ടിക്കൊണ്ടിരിക്കും, ചില സ്ഥലത്ത് തുറന്നിരിക്കും. അപ്പോൾ how do you, common syllabus, how do you make that difference? So I think the smart thing is for the government also to think about online. There's an expert committee which is supposed to be, I think, doing some report on that. So I exam എങ്ങനെ നടത്തും എന്നതിന്റെ key point. Okay, and probably that is what is going to happen.
We'll take the next question, probably the last, by Mohammed Rajas. So please ask your question, unmute your mic and ask the question.
Hi, sir. My name is Mohammed. I would like to ask you that what will happen to building material industry, especially tiles, sanitary wares. We are in tiles and sanitary wares and allied products. So what will happen after the lockdown, and what may happen to the exports? So just curious to know about it and hear it from you, sir.
I'm not very sure about exports because I'm not into that. I haven't really thought about this industry. But regarding your sector domestically, I'm involved with people in that industry. And what we have been doing for the last lockdown period is we've been, again, as I talked about for the developers and the automobile, we have been advertising digitally and creating leads and getting a lot of pipeline of customers so that when we open, we'll be able to sell. So definitely there will be a drop in the market, 100% sure, because new houses, a lot of people from Gulf returning, you can expect the market to go down. But again, as I repeat, if you're a strong player, you can do well because there are a lot of weak players in this sector and a lot of people will close down. So my client is quite strong in that sector, and we are actually looking. We had increased our sales last year despite the drop in the entire industry, and I'm hoping that in the next year we can actually at least retain the existing sales. Okay. And we are seeing a lot of from our digital marketing, lead generation. We are seeing a lot of interest from people who are saying a lot of completion work. People's work have stopped halfway. Many people would like to complete that. But obviously, in the future, the overall volumes will drop. So again, that will be compensated for by many people closing down. So I hope that answers your question. Exports, I'm not very clear about. I'm not able to give an answer on that.
Well, we'll take one last question from Mr. Jain. Please.
Hello, sir.
Yeah,
എൻ്റെ ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻ ഒരു സ്കൂൾ സിനാരിയോയിൽ തന്നെയായിരുന്നു. എസ്പെഷ്യലി ദ പ്രൈവറ്റ് സ്കൂൾസ് ലൈക്ക് CBSE, ICSE സ്കൂൾസ്, അവരുടെ ഓൺലൈൻ ക്ലാസ്സിലേക്ക് പോയാലും എങ്ങനെയാണ് അവർ ഈ മാർക്കറ്റിൽ സസ്റ്റെയിൻ ചെയ്യുക? വാട്ട് ഈസ് യുവർ ഒപ്പീനിയൻ?
See, it all depends on the costing. For example, നമ്മളിപ്പോൾ പണ്ട് കൊടുത്തുകൊണ്ടിരുന്ന ഫീസ് ഒരു amount ആയിരുന്നു. ഇപ്പോൾ if you go to online classes, നമുക്ക് ബസ്സിന്റെ ഫീസ് ഇല്ല, ഡിന്നർ ലഞ്ചിന്റെ ഫീസ് ഇല്ല, and actually fees have to go down. So if you look at the market situation, many people will be looking at reducing education fees, spending on their children because അവർക്ക് afford ചെയ്യാൻ പറ്റില്ല. ജോലി പോയി, ജോലി ശമ്പളം കിട്ടുന്നില്ല. So that's definitely going to happen. So if you're a smart school and you figure out that okay, online and ingante karyangala varan povunu, namakku adu we have to push it, then obviously costs can come down. Okay, namakku even salaries, everything are negotiable today in this market. So namakku atram building, luckily most schools are running from their own premises many times. So rent velidai ini rent ondinga rent korkanam, namakku idupolte supporting staff, and a lot of jobs will go, but you will have to match the market price. അപ്പോൾ അത് രണ്ടും ചിലർ ചെയ്യൂല, ചിലർ will continue to try and do the old way, and if what I assume happens, that is online ആ കൂടുതൽ വരാൻ പോകുന്നു, then they'll be caught off guard. They'll be way behind. അപ്പോൾ I know എൻ്റെ daughter പോകുന്ന സ്കൂൾ ഇപ്പൊ തന്നെ they have decided to go for full-fledged online classes, and they're going ahead next month, and they're saying that this may continue for very long. ഫീസിന്റെ കാര്യമൊന്നും പറഞ്ഞിട്ടില്ല. My assumption is that once they rework their strategy, they'll be talking about lower fees because നമുക്ക് ബസ് ഇല്ല, ഫുഡ് ഇല്ല, അതൊക്കെ തന്നെ പോണ്ടി വരും. And your class strength, teaching, the way we are talking to for example as a distributor ന്റെ ചോദിച്ചുകൊണ്ടിരുന്നത് പല സെയിൽസ്മാർക്ക് നമുക്ക് പണിയിപ്പോ ഇല്ല. We don't have enough work for many salespeople. So we are telling salespeople like that to sit at home and do teleordering, for example, to support the existing salespeople. And nammalipo we are talking about reducing the salary. You sit at home, you don't need to travel, TA, DA, salary korkanam, incentive vaincho. So everything is going to be renegotiable. Okay? And obviously many private schools will be in deep trouble and will close down, and the good schools will thrive because education ഒഴിവാക്കാൻ പറ്റില്ല. That's my answer to your question.
All right, sir, I think we'll end the Q&A there. Thank you everyone for attending the session. Hope you found it very useful. Thank you, sir, for your time and explaining everything. For everyone who missed the webinar, or if any of your friends want to see this webinar, it is available on our YouTube channel. You can just search for Dhanam magazine on YouTube and you will find the recording. We'll also be having more webinars, specifically with Tinisa, which is focused on more industry category focused webinars in the coming days. We will inform you the date and other details. Before we close, we have another webinar coming up on personal finance next week. പ്രതിസന്ധി ഘട്ടങ്ങളിൽ എങ്ങനെ ചെലവ് ചുരുക്കാം കൂടുതൽ വരുമാനം നേടാം. This is on Tuesday, 28th April at 11 a.m. and the speaker is Mr. Srikanth Varel, who is a financial consultant and a trainer. So if you want to sign up, please visit our website or follow us on our YouTube channel, Telegram, Facebook or Twitter. You will find the link there. So once again, thank you everyone for attending, and thank you, sir. Goodbye. Stay safe.